Kaldur súgur kælir blóðsins draug Losa fíknina og læðin Og sálin kveður lífsins langa draum Kaldur súgur kallar Kaldur súgur gefur hinstu von Hinstu von
A snippet there from the new album Endless Twilight of Codependent Love, the latest album by the Icelandic post-metal band Sólstafir. And joining me now is lead guitarist, vocalist and founder member Addi.
What's up, Lars?
Nice to speak to you from Iceland, and how are you today?
Pretty good.
So you formed the band in 1995, originally a black metal band, but around about the time of your second album, which I think was called Masterpiece of Bitterness in 2005, you transitioned to post-rock. Tell us why you transitioned and tell us all about post-rock.
Yeah, I mean, we were listening to a lot of Norwegian black metal bands, which sort of was a new thing back then. We had all band and death metal bands, and but at the same time, we kind of our bass player Halldór, he would go to England, to London in '95. He came home with this sort of new music style that we hadn't heard. He had bought like Fields of the Nephilim, The Mission, Sisters of Mercy, and we would really get into that stuff. And later on, Joy Division, and of course some of The Cure, and so this sort of British new wave goth. I don't know what you call this, British new wave goth band sort of really influenced us early on, and later on more like the Scottish band Mogwai also would sort of influence us. So we've always had this new wave influence going on along with some black metal bands.
What I like about it is you put a lot of work into your videos as well. Very theatrical, many of which they've been filmed in and out and around Iceland's mountains, glaciers, rocks and lava formations. Wonderful country. Has that inspired your songwriting as well?
Yes and no. It's very indirect influence. Most of the songs, of course, are written in filthy small places, filled with empty bottles and secret cigarette stubs. So it's not very inspirational, the rooms where you write the music, but sort of who you are. I mean, I don't, like I've said this before, I don't think the Beatles would have sounded like the Beatles if they were from, let's say, Milan in Italy, or or Tokyo or something. We sound the way we are, I think, because who we are and where we come from.
All your material I find very emotional and stirring, and if anybody wants an insight to the band live, I can recommend seeing there's a full 62-minute video about the album. I say it again, Endless Twilight of Codependent Love, which is the band's seventh. What's the theme behind it?
We've gone through a lot of lyrical themes, but the recent years we've sort of been focusing on addiction and alcoholism and depression. It all holds hands, and codependency is sort of almost like the root of it.
Sound is a raven, guides it till the sun goes down.
I've been listening to all through the album. There's a track near the end called Ulfur. nearly 9 minutes long. Again, a mixture of power, emotion. It blends itself towards soundscapes as well.
Yeah, Ulfur, it means wolf. It's just, to me, it's just a normal track. It's more unusual for us to write a song with, verse, chorus, and we just write riffs and, forget about how long they're being played. And to me, that's more like a normal song. I know it sounds a little bit bizarre, but it's just it's a typical Sólstafir song, I would say.
And the name, what's the meaning behind the name Sólstafir?
When we formed the band, we were looking for a cool band name, and our former bass player, he had this idea that we should rip off this English band called Solstice. Solstice is an English UK doom metal band, and so while we were gonna rip them off and name it sort of the Icelandic word of solstice, which is Sólstafa, Sólstafir came instead. It kind of sounded more poetic. It's like the weather term is crepuscular rays. It's like you see the sunbeams coming through the clouds. It's a weather term.
There are 4 of you in the band, and I know the names, but I'm not going to make an attempt. Can you take me through the names, please, the guys in the band?
My name is Aðalbjörn Tryggvason. On the guitar, second guitar is, or the lead guitar, is Sæþór Marius Sæþórsson, aka Gringo. Then we have on the bass guitar, Svavar Östman, Svavar Eastman, aka Pippi Langstrom. Then we have Hallgrímur John Boblum Hallgrímsson, aka Bonzo. I'm making this shit up, of course, but so yeah, it's very easy names, very standard easy names.
Yeah, right. Thanks for the help there. Well, I find the whole concept of a band from Iceland, you're actually singing in Icelandic, which I think adds so much mystery and wonderful haunting ambience. Do you ever sing in English?
Yeah, we started the band in '95, and we would be using Icelandic old poems to sort of always singing in Icelandic because we were sort of fed up with English death metal lyrics, but. Around 2000, we started using English, and we did like 2 albums in English, but we haven't written a song in English since 2007. So on this album, our latest album, is the first time since 2007 that we sort of writing a new song in English.
Little West Coast kid, born in '85. Scraps and bones, horses and elves and stones. She won't dare to go. Na 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 na.
Sólstafir are a very visual band as well. And I've always been a fan of guitar players who wear the guitars low, Jimmy Page, Slash, and you wear yours very low as well.
Yeah, that's probably from Hatfield. Hatfield's sort of always been my sort of guitar hero, one of them. If I go back a bit, my main guitar heroes have always been sort of Richie Blackmore, Fast Eddie, Billy Corgan, but sort of Hatfield's sort of been, having guitar low. At first it was more like the looks of it. It's cool. Then you get used to it. And then a couple of years ago, I'm sort of, I don't know, my back was bad or something. I don't know. I took this guitar like 5 centimeters up or something, and it felt like idiot playing it because I thought, this is weird. It's so up again, guitar. And then I saw a picture of it. That's not up at all. It doesn't make any sense. It's not really more comfortable for the hand, but it's just something you're used to. I mean, you don't put cowboy boots on and say it's so comfortable for the body to walk in this. It's not. It's just some feeling.
And there's a great clip where the band played on KEXP-TV where you've got it really slung low. It's rocking, it's sticking in. Let's just talk guitars because you have quite an assortment. And live I've seen you wearing a model made by our Icelandic luthier and friend Gunnar Ornd Sigurðsson, the man behind Ornd Custom Guitars.
What you see behind me is this one here is my just old Gibson. It's like a 96 Flying V model. I sort of custom did it a little bit myself. It had a white pickguard, and I changed it to a black one. And I took all the silver hardware and put gold hardware on it. So you don't really buy these things new with gold hardware and black plate pickguard. So, but it's a Gibson, so the neck is broken 5 times on this guitar. So it's kind of retired from touring. And then, like 2014, I sort of got to know Gunnar, and he made this one, from this one. Weird changing because I'd used the Gibson V for so many years, and now if I play the Gibson V, it's a stranger to me. I used this guitar almost every gig since 2014, so it's probably got a few thousand shows only almost. So it's a lot of dust and dirt and blood, and I don't think I've ever cleaned it.
But he does make them strong, as we know, and we've seen pictures of him dipping the guitars in the geysers. Crazy. So do you think in this modern world, just talking about Iceland, do you think in this modern world the whole concept of Iceland being up there has changed within the music scene?
It definitely changed since the 80s. I mean, in the 80s there was nothing here except some sort of UK influenced indie bands, and no one came here, so it was a lot of isolation. The biggest band to come out of the 80s here was the Sugar Cubes before Björk. And then later on, Sigur Rós and other bands. Today, it's much easier to be a touring band, or you do so much stuff through the internet, and so it's easier today. And Iceland is more hip and cool. It wasn't that hip and cool in the 80s. even in the 90s.
That's right, like you say, I remember the Sugar Cubes in the 80s raising awareness there. So there wasn't a metal scene at all there. When did the metal scene start in Iceland?
There was a sort of death metal scene around 1990, from 1990 till 94. Around 94 till sort of around 2000, there was nothing here. And then around sort of, let's say around 2010, we've had sort of a lot of black metal bands coming up here. Quality black metal bands and some metal bands. There's a lot of metal here now, but it's, you know, it's like everything. It comes in waves, and we've been around for such a long time. We've sort of seen it, you know, when it comes and goes.
So let's just go back to the 90s when metal was started and you were going, was there a decent studio to make a demo? How did you make a demo?
There was like a demo or sort of a studio in sort of this youth center in our neighborhood, which was really cool that the city ran it. It was a cheap studio. It had like 8 tracks, one 8-deck machine. We would go there to record our demo in 95 and our first album same year. It was kind of cool to record a demo. Then we would make 100 cassettes, and I would take the DAT master and take the bus down to the sort of blind people association, and there was a blind guy that we would be sort of producing, you know, basically audiobooks for blind people. So you know, it's kind of funny story. You know, go to the studio and you hand over the master to a blind guy, and he's got all these knobs in front of him. So he mastered our demo with 100 cassettes. It was fairly easy back then. Yeah.
Wow, what great stories. I love it. So before you go, just tell us where we can buy the album, please.
I wish I could say that you could go at every Virgin and HMV megastore in the United Kingdom and buy it. Sadly, all the record stores are gone, so you can go on our label is called Season of Mist, and they are in America and France and on the internet. So you can order it. Since we're not coming to your town touring, I'm afraid you have to order it. But there are some record stores around, and you know, if it's good enough, it's gonna have the album.
Eddie, thanks so much for coming on Britain's Rare Guitars and talking to us from Iceland.
The pleasure was mine, Lars.